At a high school party, I was drunk and ended up having a one-night stand with the best guy in our class. A month later, I found out I was pregnant. To my surprise, he proposed to me, but not long after we got married, I lost the baby. Even so, our marriage continued, although he was never warm or loving toward me until 2 years later, I discovered he hadn't married me out of love. He did it to fulfill his grandfather's dying wish, and to make matters worse, he was still in love with another woman. That's when I decided I wanted a divorce. That night, after making love, I opened my mouth and said, "Mateo, we should get a divorce." My voice was soft, but I could feel his body tense in my arms. Mateo looked down at me. "Why?" he asked, with the calmness he was always known for. "We got married because of the baby, but unfortunately, the baby is no longer here." I looked him in the eyes firmly. "I've gotten used to being alone. Honestly, with or without you. It feels the same, but without you, I wouldn't have so many expectations or frustrations. I think you probably feel the same way. After the divorce, I wouldn't have to deal with your disdain for my mother and relatives, and you wouldn't have to put up with my greedy family." Mateo said nothing. He just looked at me in silence. His brown eyes darkened even more. When I thought he wouldn't answer, he nodded silently. "All right." No more questions, no further explanations. It was just like when I agreed to marry him. A simple, all right. That was the Mateo I knew. I smiled at him, holding back tears, and gently buried my head in his chest, hugging him one last time. Mateo didn't react. He just let me hold him in silence. Then, I carefully pulled away. "I'm going to take a shower." Just as I was about to get up from the bed, someone grabbed my arm and pulled me back onto the soft mattress. Mateo kissed me forcefully, but seeing the panic in my eyes, he stopped. His eyes were full of anger, but little by little he calmed down. He turned over and lay down beside me. "Sleep." He closed his eyes. The next morning, when I woke up, Mateo was already gone. I began packing my things. Before leaving, I took one last look at the house where I had lived for 2 years. I left the keys and divorce papers on the table and sent Mateo a message. "I've signed the divorce papers and left them on the table. I've asked Don Suarez to handle everything. When do you have time to finalize the process? I'm leaving. Take care." Mateo was in a meeting when he received the message. As he read it, he froze. No one in the room had ever seen him so disoriented, especially his secretary, Lucia, who had known Mateo for years and had never seen him like this. "Mr. Brock," Lucia whispered, trying to get his attention. Mateo glanced at her, calmly set his phone on the table, and continued talking. But just when everyone thought he was fine, he suddenly said, "This meeting is over." He grabbed his phone off the table and rushed out of the room. The others exchanged confused glances. "What's wrong with Mr. Brock?" Mateo went straight home. It was the first time he'd done so during work hours. The house was clean, but there was no trace of me, only the divorce papers on the table, slightly moving in the breeze. Mateo approached and picked them up. The agreement was simple. I didn't want anything from him. I had already signed. Mateo looked at the divorce papers, lost in thought. After a while, he heard the soft sound of a door opening. Mateo suddenly turned his head toward the door. His mother, Selena, had just entered and was startled to see him move so suddenly. "What's going on?" she asked, confused. "Nothing," he replied coldly. "Why are you here? I thought no one would be."